Why are sites like Bleacher Report and ESPN and Sports Illustrated so obsessed with doing these potential Davante Adams trade packages as if the Raiders are just going complete nuclear rebuild this season? Have you been paying attention to the free agents and to the acquisitions we've made in the draft to build this roster to compete right now? Davante Adams is not getting traded this year. Now, look, before you run to the hills, I am not suggesting that I want to trade Davante Adams. I do not want to do that. I want him to be a Raider for life. But there is a move that I've suggested in the past, before I've got a lot of these new subscribers who haven't seen me talk about this yet, but I haven't made a full detailed video about it. And it has to do with the age of Davante Adams, our quarterback situation, the person we just drafted with our first pick in Brock Bowers, and a wide receiver that made it very clear that he wants to play for the Raiders. This is all encompassing. It's kind of a theory / sneaky Billy Bean move to put us in a position to not have to rebuild if the quarterback situation doesn't work out right away with Davante Adams aging the way he is. And I mentioned I got a bunch of new subscribers recently. I just want to say this. If you are new to the channel, or if you've been watching me these last few weeks and haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so because we are trying to hit 10,000 before the new season. We got a game against Jim Harbaugh. I want to hit 10K. I want to be ready to freaking go to take this channel to the moon before week 1. Please consider subscribing. We're almost to 8,000, and once we get to 8, why not 9? Why not 10? Hit that sub button. I made a video a couple months back, which you can go check out, talking about a Davante Adams trade, not this year, but a few years down the road, and I thought about this. Davante Adams is not old, but he is getting older. And the older you get as a running back or a wide receiver, the slower, the less effective you become. I believe Davante Adams has 2 more all-pro, #1 Hall of Fame wideout years left, maybe 3. Here's the thing, though. We have to understand that developing a quarterback, whether that's Gardner or Aiden or somebody we draft, is going to take time. And in that video, I said I wasn't sure if by the time, we'll just take Aiden, if by the time Aiden's ready to actually be the guy to win a Super Bowl, Davante Adams will have many good years left. He probably will have 1 great year, but it's really hard to win a Super Bowl. And if you lose that year in the divisional round, if the year is 2026, and this is Davante Adams' last great all-pro year, right? And Aiden is finally the guy. If you lose that, then all of a sudden you lose your #1 option. And this is how I tied it all into Brock Bowers. The reason why initially I thought it was possible that we could draft him, I didn't have any insider information. This was just a theory, and this was just my thoughts. If I was the GM, what would I do? The reason why I proposed drafting Brock Bowers weeks before the draft is because that was a way to make sure by the time Davante is gone, you still have that all-pro #1 offensive weapon option, focal point of the offense. You are getting someone who's plug and play right now to team up with Davante, but by the time Davante is gone, you have someone who can replace him. And then we drafted Brock Bowers, and I lost my mind, and people were like, well, look, we didn't need a tight end right now, and I completely understand that. But when you have blue chip players available in the draft, you have to take them. The other reason why I got so excited is because they put my plan into motion. I'm not saying that I gave them the plan or that I'm as smart as they are. What I'm saying is they understand how much time we have left with prime Davante, and we need to find another focal point. However, if you are somebody like the Kansas City Chiefs who has a Travis Kelce, and we don't have a Patrick Mahomes to pair with that to elevate these other mediocre wide receivers, you're going to have to find that Tyreek Hill. And I'm not saying Tyreek Hill in terms of the speed guy. I mean in terms of a #1 wideout. You could have your focal point be the tight end, but you still need that wideout. And right now, I don't think he's currently on the roster. We've talked about, I'm not talking about Davante. I mean, once Davante's gone and Brock Bowers is still here. Obviously, Davante is the #1. I think he's the best wide receiver in the league. Trey Tucker has taken a lot of leaps. Yes, we've seen that. And Jacoby Myers is great, but he's no spring chicken either. He's in his late 20s, I believe. How old is he? All right, he's only 27, so he's got a lot of years left. And maybe he could take over for Davante, right? But there's another player that will be traded that will garner probably a first-round pick. And, people are thinking that we're going to be like middling, so our pick is going to be pretty decent. And I've said his name before, and that player is Brandon Aiyuk. Now, I'm not suggesting that if this year doesn't go well, we trade Davante for a 1, take that 1 and flip him for Brandon Aiyuk. What I'm suggesting is much more drastic. What I'm saying is we should trade for Brandon Aiyuk now. We have that extra cap space, and there are guys we need to extend, yes. But hear me out for just 1 second. And when I say now, maybe I don't mean right now, this very day. Maybe it's this trade deadline, or maybe it's right after this season. If we take advantage of having Aiden O'Connell on his rookie deal, that means we are going to have the money to not only sign the people we want to sign extension-wise, like a Kuntz, like a Merrick, like a Nate Hobbs, right? But we can go get other weapons to fill around the kid Aiden O'Connell, like the 49ers, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, Juwan Jennings. That's 4 great weapons with Christian McCaffrey. And we don't even have a running back making a lot of money. We have Zamir White on a rookie 4th-round contract as well. So they've got Brock Purdy surrounded by all those guys, right? Our Deebo could be Davante Adams. Our Kittle could be Brock Bowers. Our Aiyuk could be Brandon Aiyuk. And then our Juwan Jennings could be our Jacoby Myers, who's way better than Juwan Jennings. Our running back, Christian McCaffrey, Zamir White, Dylan Laube combination. Why not go all in right now? Push all the chips to the center. See exactly what Aiden could do in a Brock Purdy type situation where you've got no excuses, all the weapons at your disposal, and all of a sudden we are rocking and freaking rolling. And you might say, well, why would the 49ers be incentivized to do that? Well, because apparently the rookie wide receiver they drafted out of Florida is turning heads, and they've already signed Juwan Jennings to an extension. I don't believe they'll get rid of Deebo because he's a Swiss Army man, kind of do it all kind of player. I think they can take Juwan Jennings, Deebo, Kittle, McCaffrey, and the new wideout from Florida, put him in the Aiyuk role, and then get rid of Aiyuk, get a 1st-round pick from us, and then all of a sudden we're rocking and rolling. And then a few years down the road, if Davante starts to wither, or if he's unhappy because we're not winning games, or if because he wants to just try something else, then we flip him for a 1st or a 2nd and a 3rd, depending on how good he still is. Being a general manager, putting a roster together, look, you want to win right now, but you also have to plan for the future. And the future is coming for all of us. The future is coming for Davante Adams. He has a handful of great years left. We've already completed step 1 of finding the focal point of the offense replacement in Brock Bowers. If Aiden takes a big leap this year, then we might not have to worry about Davante Adams' years left, because if Aiden plays as well as we think he can this year, we're not going to have to worry about Davante Adams withering away. If it takes a little more time, which is what usually happens with a lot of these quarterbacks, it took Josh Allen 3 years before we were like, wow, this guy's a stud. Not everybody can be Patrick Mahomes and just come in and light the world on fire, right? It takes time for these quarterbacks to develop. And I just worry that we're going to need another wideout after Davante leaves. And what better way to solve that problem than to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, who's made it clear through people that he's close to that he wants to play for the Raiders. And let's talk about this, baby. Let's talk about Coach AP. Antonio Pierce was on the staff at Arizona State when Brandon Aiyuk made the transfer. And AP was a defensive coach and a recruiting coordinator. Antonio Pierce was the reason Brandon Aiyuk transferred to Arizona State. He is the guy to bring him there. How fitting, how poetic that AP is the guy to bring Brandon Aiyuk to Las Vegas. This just goes to show you, with Brandon Aiyuk basically saying, I want to play for the Raiders, that Antonio Pierce has changed the way the Raiders are perceived. It's a place you want to play, not only because of no state income tax and because of the facility, but you want to put that silver and black on and play for Al Davis's memory, for Mark Davis's team, for AP's team, for Patrick Graham and Luke Getsy. These guys have the heart of the team. And Aiyuk is just another example of a past player of AP wanting to play for him. And look, The 49ers Raiders rivalry, like, I'm not from the West Coast, so I don't really care about the 49ers. Everyone's like, 49ers versus Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I don't know who to root for. It's like, if you're rooting for the Chiefs, you're crazy to me. However, I get it. There's like this weird thing. This is a business, and if these two teams want to come together and make a move, they're going to make a move, especially with the Raiders not in California anymore. It doesn't feel that weird to see them making some sort of transaction. Antonio Pierce was the recruiting coordinator at Arizona State when Aiyuk made the transfer. They have a big-time connection. He can fill the void of a Davante Adams once Davante retires or gets traded. We can trade our 2025 first-round pick to get Aiyuk because it'll be a decent pick in the eyes of these people. We could surround Aiden with Brock Purdy-level talent, our Kittle, our Debo, our Aiyuk, our Juwan Jennings, our running back combination that would be good to compare to Christian McCaffrey. Then Aiden or Gardner, whoever it is, has no excuses. We have a great offensive line and a great defense. We could turn into the AFC version of the San Francisco 49ers with a little more edge because we've got that silver and black on. And if we make this move, we can shock the world. What say you about all this that I've been saying? Would you trade for Brandon Aiyuk? What are your thoughts on how many years left Davante Adams has? Would Aiden O'Connell have any more excuses if we surrounded him with all this talent? Do we have the money for this? I know there would be some salary cap finagling, but if we brought some guys in that were making a lot of money and said, hey, we need to restructure your contracts to get Brandon Aiyuk in the building, someone like a Max Crosby, I think he would do that. I think Davante would do that. And then you could have somebody like a Brandon Aiyuk learning under Davante. Davante would have like a coaching tree of little guys that he's taught, like Bowers, like Trey Tucker, like Aiyuk, like Gallup. Davante could rub off on all these guys, and before he leaves one day, he could say, all right, now you guys are the Raiders. You guys are the weapons with Aiden to take this thing to the next level. I do think if Aiden develops quickly, we could win a lot of games and maybe get to a Super Bowl with Davante still here. I just want to preface by saying I don't want to trade Davante Adams, but I'm thinking about all the outcomes, and I think that outcome is one that I'd be happy with, and it's one that's more likely than people think. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Drop likes, drop comments, hit that subscribe button. Man, please do if you can. If you can consider it, blah, blah, blah. We're trying to hit 10K. Please be sure to subscribe. It's free after all, no charge to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.